Greetings, everyone. I am ecstatic to be alive, and I pray to God you are as well. Welcome to Sandra's Authors Forum. I am ecstatic to be alive, and I know you are. You've been waiting for this show. We have been promoting it, and you have your questions. And so we know that this is going to be exactly what you've prayed for. And you're coming on saying, hello and good afternoon, everyone. So thank you so much for joining us. Do me a favor and tell a friend to tell a friend that Sandra's Authors Forum is on right now. And do me a favor, go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. And also, one more thing, when you come on, tell us who you are, where you're from, and tell us your name so we can give you a shout out. Thank you so much. Listen, we have an amazing show for you today. And we want you to go ahead and spread the word. We have Veronica Truesdale on, and she is the founder of Truesdale Tax Solutions, and she founded this company in April of 2022. Her goal is to maximize returns and simplify taxes for her clients. Will you do me a favor and welcome our dear Veronica Truesdale on with me tonight? Hello,
Hi.
how
Hi,
are
thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
you? You are welcome. Thank you so much for coming. And how was your day today?
It was a busy day, but it was another day above ground, as my father likes to say. So it's a blessing.
Oh, yes, I am so honored to have you on the show tonight. We have some tax talk to talk about, and so I know you are ready to jump in. But before we begin the tax talk, I just want you to tell me a little bit about yourself, if you will.
Well, I am the mother of three beautiful children. I am the wife of a wonderful husband and pastor. We have been married 17 years this coming April. And we have three beautiful children, Aiden, Harper, and Silas, that are just the joy of our world. Um, I am also an ordained evangelist. We pastor a church in Charleston, South Carolina. It is growing. God is blessing, and we're just humbled that God has chosen us in this season. In addition to that, I am a human resource director for a command that works, and I work for the Navy. So pretty busy, but I love everything that I do.
I love it, especially when you mention your family. It's like a joy comes over you, and everybody that is a parent can relate to that totally. You have a favorite quote, and I had never heard of this quote. So I would
Yeah.
like for you to say what it is and explain to us what it means.
Yeah. So anytime I am kind of challenged with something and trying to grow in myself, my favorite thing to always tell myself is good, better, best. Never let it rest until my good is better than my best. And to me, that is just constantly telling me to achieve higher. Never let never let myself just be good. Always try to get to my best. And even when I think I've met my best, that's just good. And strive more, strive higher, do greater. And that just completely aligns with what the word lets us know is that greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world. And so I can never think that I just need to settle for good. I've always got to be making my good better than my best. So
Well, that is phenomenal because our parents teach us to be our best. And so, good, better, best, all of that is like meaning the same thing. Never let it rest. That is a reminder that we have to always carry that mindset, until good is better than your best. That is achievable, and it is really, really good. All right. So, let's talk taxes.
mhm.
How long has it been? When did you start your company?
So I officially started my company April of 2024. I'm sorry, not 2024, 2022. But I had been doing taxes, just independently, kind of on my own. But just in April 2022, I finally decided that I was going to step out and I was going to start taking on clients that were other than, family, and helping. So,
All right. So you decided to go into this full time and you did something about it. So what class did you take? How did you prepare yourself to become, I call you the guru of professional taxes.
yeah. So, my tagline I like to say is I'm the tax maven, right?
Yes.
So, there's a lot of different things that I did. I obviously obtained a mentor, right? Like that was probably one of the most important things. Still do have a mentor at all times. Tax laws change so frequently, bouncing things off of each other is what kind of propels us to be good, better than our best,
Right,
right?
right.
um, but I studied with Intuit. I've also done all of the training that is required in order to be an IRS registered tax preparer.
Mhm.
So that's a very extensive training that you have to take and a 100-question course that you have to pass in order to obtain that designation. I have to maintain several different types of CEUs in order to obtain that discretion, that accreditation. So between Intuit, researching, obviously having a strong peer network is really, how I've been able to grow and develop into this tax field.
Oh, that's wonderful. So we want the audience to know that you're well qualified to prepare everyone's taxes, and that is individual and real business refunds, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
So
ma'am.
can you explain to us what is the individual tax forms that they would fill out and tell us about the business?
Yeah. So typically, you either have uh, your typical income taxes, which is what the majority of Americans are supposed to be filing. You file that based off of the fact that you receive a W 2 or a 1099, or maybe you even file a Schedule C because you have a business that you've registered as like an LLC, for instance. And so that's the typical return that everybody should be filing. On the flip side of that, you have what we actually call like a true traditional business return. Those are for organizations that have officially signed up to be either like an S Corp or a C Corp. Those are what you call true business returns, and they're filed on a different type of a schedule within the IRS guidelines. So, and that's just one of the things that most people, we're all supposed to be doing income taxes. Really, only businesses that have officially gotten a designation as a C Corp, S Corp, and there's other types of business corporations that you can obtain. They file with a traditional business return.
All right. So when is the first day you can file? What date was that?
So the first day that you could actually file, you could start. I started January 2nd, but some you could do it into December. The main thing that's important is that you get all of your tax documents, right? Most companies are not required, and they're not required to send them out until the end of January, by January 31st. Sometimes they get them out a little sooner, but January 2nd is when you can really start filing. The IRS doesn't typically accept returns until that very last week of January. So I believe this year the date was January 24th when they officially started accepting returns. They do have a little bit of a 2-week grace period in the front of that where they do like some hub testing to make sure their systems are all working. But officially, it's usually the third or the fourth week in January that they start accepting returns.
All right. Um, where do young people go to file their taxes? Like, there are some places that are free for like elderly and
Mhm.
young people. What places are those?
Yeah, so there's actually a couple of different resources. So you have what is called a VITA Center. The VITA Center is one of those places that is specifically for low income, elderly. You can sit down in front of a tax professional and they will file your taxes for free. Typically, you're not going to file long business returns with multiple deductions and credits. They're pretty much the most simplistic type of filing. You also there are some free sites that you can go online to file your return. The IRS recently published their free version, and what it is the IRS works with softwares, different company softwares, and allow people to file for free. But there are income limits to that as well, so you have to be underneath a certain threshold in order to file for free.
All right. And then your company, we're going to put your website on the screen in a few minutes, and then you will be able to um, talk to us about what that means. But we have a question. What's the difference between a W 2, a W 4, and a 1099?
Yeah, so a W-4 honestly is the one of the most important documents that you could have. The W-4 is the form that you use in order to tell your organization how much taxes you would like to withdraw from your paycheck each pay period in order to meet the obligation that you have from the IRS. So that's what your W-4 is for. That is your withholding. The W 2 is the form that your company fills out at the end of the year to say, hey, this is what we pulled from this person's paycheck. This is what they pulled from their retirement. This is what we've designated towards state income taxes. That's what your W-4, I'm sorry, your W-2 represents. The 1099, those forms are typically for somebody that is like a contractor. So they are not a traditional W 2 worker where they have their taxes taken out of their paychecks. They just receive a lump check with no taxes taken out. And they don't have the typical structure where there is a specific start time and end time to their day. Somebody's telling them exactly what to do, when to do. Contractors typically have way more flexibility in their hours and their tasking and their day to day. With the 1099, because taxes are not withdrawn, it's very important for those types of filers to be setting aside money each time they get paid in order to accommodate whatever their tax bill would be during the filing season.
Very good. All right. So let's go to your website here, and you can explain as I scroll. All right.
Yeah, so typically when you come onto my website, I try to make it as simplistic as possible. So the first thing you see is click here to file, right? That's the most important thing that everybody wants to do is click and file. So that's just the first stop. You can see on right below that if you wanted to communicate with me either via email or my phone number, you would be able to do so through that link. I also have my socials on the right hand side of the screen. And if you scroll down, then I just like to always make sure that I have a variety of information that I'm sharing with my clients about filing their taxes. So as you scroll through towards the bottom, you'll see my photo gallery where I'll talk about the items that you need in order to file your taxes. I'll
Right.
give you some
Go ahead.
quick tips on certain types of things that you will need. And then obviously if I'm running any type of promotions, I like to also put that on my website as well. So I do offer promotions during certain holidays. So for Valentine's Day, I do promotions for couples. When they file, they get um, either a hotel stay, or sometimes I even give out restaurant gift certificates. If it's during President's Day, I'll have a promotion and like to post those on my website for my clients. If you scroll a little further, you'll be able to see have the ability to schedule an appointment. So I do like for all of my clients to do an initial consultation with me so I can understand your tax profile and we can walk through exactly what you need to provide in order for us to get everything filed as promptly as possible. And then at the very bottom, I do write blog posts from time to time. And it's really meant to help you understand what this whole tax world is and how it's important for you in knowing how to file. I also do have a couple of digital downloads. For instance, if you need to know how to fill out your W-4 properly, I do have some digital downloads on my site as well so that you can file know how to file your W-4 with your human resources and payroll office appropriately. So yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. The link will be in the comment section below. And so you want to go ahead and, yes, she has it on the screen. And you want to go ahead and go to her website, fill out the simple form, because this is actually the simplest form that I have ever used in all of my years of filing my taxes. It is very, very simple. She's willing to have a free consult with you for 30 minutes so you can align with her and see if you are the perfect fit. And so you want to feel free to reach out to her, and everything is in the comment section. And so, what are some issues or mistakes people make when filing their W 4?
The main thing is the number of exemptions that you file. So the more exemptions you annotate, the less money they take out. So if they do not end up taking out enough money from your paycheck for taxes, that's how you end up owing money at the end of the year. The IRS does have a free withholding calculator. So if you need to understand, hey, how much do I make and how much would my withholding should my withholding be, you can use that, and then they will tell you what your exemptions should be and how you should fill out your withholding. So that's the biggest mistake. That's the main mistake, is that people just are not either taking out enough money from their income, or people are not utilizing things like retirement accounts, right? There are ways to put money into your retirement, which then reduces your taxable income. And that's the game, right? When I tell you that on my website, my tagline is taxes simplified, returns maximized. There are people in this world, in the United States of America, that have figured this tax law out. They figured out the tax code to reduce their taxable income, even though they're high earners. And that is originally why I really got into really wanting to understand taxes for myself, so I could become one of those individuals that could reduce my tax liability as much as possible. So,
Wow, that's good stuff. So taxes simplify, returns maximize.
yes.
That is completely good to know, because some people get stuck on that. We can't understand the legalistic. You
That's what I'm
know,
here
that's why you're here, because I know it's like really difficult. So, how much money would you advise a person to put in their retirement plan, starting
I
off
would,
from a youth?
yeah, I would tell you to, if your company does a match, and a lot of companies do, they will match you, 3%, 5%. I would tell you, at a minimum, do that match. So if they say, hey, if you put in 5%, we'll put in 5%, do that.
Do
That
that.
is free money from that organization, right? Take the
Yes.
free money.
Take the free
Now,
money.
take it. Now, if you have the opportunity, especially while you're younger, to also get into other types of, like, you have IRAs, right? We have traditional retirement, we have IRAs, and we have Roth IRAs. If you can get into those different forms of retirement accounts and you have the money to put aside, I don't care if it's 20, 100, 50, just start. It's not about the amount, it's about starting someplace. And one thing that I like to tell people is, if you have the ability to do that, when you get a pay raise, don't take that pay raise as more money to spend. Take that pay raise as money to put away into one of your retirement or savings accounts. That's what you should do.
That's what
That's
you
what's
should
going to help
do.
you.
Wow, Dr. Rachel Ann is on, and she just moved to Texas. And she said, "Take the free money," and she's getting ready to retire, so she must have did
Take it.
things right.
Yes.
Take the free money. All right. So you were talking about the marketplace and the Obamacare and ACA. Can you explain to the audience about that?
Yes. So it's called the Affordable Care Act. Some people refer to it as marketplace insurance, but it actually came from what people were calling it Obamacare when it was first started. So they're all the same thing. The terminology is intermingled. So basically, this is just a program that America has that allows people to obtain insurance through the marketplace. It is typically cheaper than what you might pay for out of your own pocket if you had to go source your own type of insurance. So what you would typically see is you would receive a form at the end of the year called a 1095A if you have marketplace insurance. Some people will receive a 1095C,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have to necessarily file that on your return. It's not required. It's only required if you got a 1095A, and that designates that you officially have marketplace insurance. It's important that you provide that because since the marketplace is tied to the federal government, the IRS also has the records. So if you do not file your 1095A, your return will be rejected because when the IRS goes to balance the systems, it'll immediately say, hey, this person had marketplace insurance. You didn't file a 1095A. So it's important to note that.
All right. And so people are asking for the website again. All right.
Okay.
Um, Feel free right now to ask your questions. She is open to any questions that you
Yeah.
have out there. We put the link again in the comment section. All you have to do is really click it and you should have access to it. You can set up a free 30-minute session and she will, her calendar is on there and she would love to meet with you to see what your needs are. All right, because every person, every household, their taxes may be different than the next person. All right.
Absolutely.
All right. So can you explain the IP?
Yeah.
Which Go ahead.
Yeah. So one thing that the IRS started doing was create identification pins. Those identification pins, everybody doesn't have to have one, but it is highly recommended in certain cases. And in certain cases, the IRS will kind of almost mandate it. So if you ever had like a fraudulent account where somebody's tried to use your social security number, or they've tried to file your children on their taxes, the IRS will definitely say, hey, you should get an IP pin. And what that pin does is it prevents anybody else from filing against that social security number. So what they do is they give each person a portal. You would go into that portal each year and get whatever your new IP pin is for the year. And that's all that really is. It's just really helpful. You don't have to have it, but if you have concerns about your credit, somebody scamming, somebody having some fraudulent activity, it's always recommended to get an IP pin. So I think you may be muted.
So you're getting people that are booking sessions for you already. So you have a session tomorrow at 5. So make sure you block that out.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. The good thing about my website is it's automated.
That is awesome. Awesome. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions for our guests, now is the time for you to ask your questions. Oh, that's so nice. Yes. All right. So, our next question is we have, oh, that's nice. All right. So, can you tell us what would you like the audience to know that they do not know about taxes?
So one of the main things that I always like to stress to people is it's not necessarily the most important thing to get a refund. And here's why I say that. If you're getting a refund, that means that you are giving the government free money and you're not charging them interest. So potentially that is money that could be going in your pocket that you could earn interest on if you put it into something like a high yield savings account, right? So I always like to tell people the goal is to reduce your tax liability. The
Mm.
goal is to neither owe or receive. The goal is to pay exactly what you owe throughout the year. So I know we have a culture of let's get big refunds, let's get huge refunds, but that's not always the goal that I think people should be obtaining. We should be obtaining to reduce our liability, to pay exactly what we owe, and any money that we have, we put it someplace that's going to earn us interest, going to pay us dividends in the long run. That's what we truly want.
So, what does it mean to claim yourself? This is from a young person.
So you don't really claim yourself. You are the person that's filing the return. You claim other people, right? You can claim a dependent. You can claim, some people they might claim their parents if they are the sole take care of their parents, right? You might claim, if you're doing head of household, you might claim, the wife or the children, but you don't typically claim yourself in that manner.
So, I think what they're saying is on their at work. I know you was telling one of my daughters this. I think
Yeah.
that's what she's meaning. Like when
Yeah.
you can you explain that?
So that's on the W-4. I believe that we're referring to the W-4. You need to claim zero exemptions is the right way to file on your W-4 in order to ensure that the taxes are appropriately taken out. The more exemptions, and typically an exemption is saying, hey, I need less money taken out of my account because when it comes time for me to file my return, I have dependents, right? So you typically claim more dependents, and that's what you're claiming on that W-4. Like, I need less money taken out because I might have one, two, three people that I need to care for. And so I need more of my money now. If you claim zero, they're going to take less out because that's saying I don't have any additional exemptions, any children, anything else that needs me to withhold money.
So if you want to receive more refund, then what do you put on there?
Zero should be what you should put on there. You should at
Correct.
least put zero. You also have the option to take out more money. So you could say, I want to claim zero exemptions and take an additional $20 out of my paycheck, set it
And
aside for taxes.
and
You
so
could do
what
that as well.
what happens when you do that at the end at the tax season?
So hopefully if you claim that right and you've already calculated the right amount of taxes, either you'll get a refund or you will have at least paid what you owe the IRS.
And so it's the ideal way is to not owe the government anything and not to get a return back either, correct?
Yeah. And like I said, that's my personal opinion because I want to use my money now and I want to put it somewhere where I can earn interest off of it.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yes.
If I set it aside to the IRS all year long, I get no interest, no benefit, no dividend off of that. So I would rather, instead of always getting a huge refund, I'd rather take the money in my paycheck and just pay them what I have to and take the
And
other piece and save it away.
mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. And so she says, what deductions are people missing out on?
Yeah. So one thing that people don't realize, like if you were in school, a lot of people don't realize like you need to be going, especially for college students, you need to be going to your college websites and getting your 1099-T. That is something that's really important. That is a deduction that you can either get the American Opportunity Credit or the Lifetime Learning Credit, right? Another deduction that people don't always claim is the child care credit. So people typically think child care is only if you're talking about an actual daycare,
Hmm.
from the ages of infant to 4. But even if your child went to aftercare, right? If you had to put your child in before school care or after school care, you can also use that to claim that deduction. So that's always one of the things that my clients are always like, oh, I didn't realize I could do that.
Hmm.
Um, Another credit that I think people tend to miss out on is especially for those high income earners, it's really important that you look at charitable donations. That can really help to reduce your tax liability if you have a mortgage. Utilizing those exemptions as well is something that people tend to forget, right? Like property taxes, car taxes, especially for those high income earners, where there's an option between using what the IRS calculates as the standard deduction that they're going to take away from your taxable income versus what you might be able to, that might be more. So if what you're going to calculate is more than the standard deduction, then that's something that you should always go for. But you don't know if you're not putting all of those receipts together.
So it's very important to keep your receipts for a whole year. What is the best way to do that?
So I have seen tools where there are apps where you can, when you get a receipt, you sign it in. Those work. I've seen people that they just, whenever they get a receipt, they have a little envelope and they put the receipts in their envelope. Then they keep it with them in their car. I've seen where people will do something a little more formal and upload it into, a spreadsheet. So the forum is not necessarily important. It's the keeping that's important,
Keeping that
right?
support. All right.
Keeping is that
So
important.
they want to know, what is a 1099 form and how do they work?
Yeah, so a 1099 form, so there are different types of forms, right? You have a 1099 form and they have different letters, whether they are for retirement, whether they are for a contractor. But typically, when people say a 1099, they're talking about somebody who was self employed and they are a contractor. And so that form is something that whoever offered that contract to you, they would fill that out saying how much they paid you. And then they would give you a 1099 at the end of the year. Something that's worthy of mentioning too is a 1099K. So I know recently everybody was going round and round about, hey, we're now going to get a 1099K if you receive payments for your business via like Cash App,
Mm.
Venmo,
Mm-hmm.
any of those third party servicing companies, PayPal. So it's important. That's another form of, you've received income that company sees as business income. It's meeting those thresholds, and you'll get a 1099K. And you would also have to report that as part of your income on your tax forms.
Wow. So they want to know, since you're so well versed, do you ever get overwhelmed with keeping up with all of the forms? And what helps you in keeping going, to keep going?
I I will tell you what truly helps me is one, um, the website that I have
Hmm.
and the ability for those things to be uploaded. That has been tremendous, right? I don't necessarily have to keep up with it. It is given to me. The main thing that I have to keep up with is making sure if there are changes in the tax laws, right? From year to year, the IRS, Congress, the congressionals, they change the way things are calculated. So it's important to me to make sure that I stay up to date on what's going on. So the foreign part is pretty easy. It's the tax law that you really have to make
Change.
sure that you're
Yes.
understanding.
Yes. What part of being a licensed professional is your favorite?
Honestly, like the customer service. Like if I have to say, like I've always been in some form of customer service my entire time working since I was, 16 years old. I started out working in a bridal shop. And part of what I loved is seeing a woman trying to dress and having her, this is my dress moment. So I really just enjoy talking with individuals, helping them understand why what's happening is what's happening. That is one of the things that I think I can provide the most to people. People don't typically, when it comes to filing their taxes, especially if you use some of the bigger box companies, it's really, hey, this is what your return is, this is what you owe. But I really like to say, okay, this is why this is happening, and this is what you can do to help. So that tax education piece of things, the tax planning piece of it is what I really enjoy doing with my customers.
All right. And then they would like to know, what are the pros to the Roth IRA?
So, one of the biggest pros to having a Roth IRA is it is um, what you receive post taxes, right? That is what you put into a retirement account out of your net income. The best part of that is when you go to retire and you go to withdraw, there's no penalty, there's no tax taken out of it, right? When you have a traditional IRA, it will be taxed because that is pre tax retirement contributions. With the Roth, that is post tax retirement contributions. So that's one of the biggest pros to it. So whatever you earn off of that is yours in retirement.
All right. I hope all of your questions are being answered. Check out her beautiful website once again and set up a consultation so you can meet with her for a free 30-minute session. I love free.com. So if you don't have to if you don't have to pay for it, you should, consult with her so you can ask all of your questions because I know all of your questions are very important. Are you familiar with the Ali Financial? If so, how do you feel about their savings account APY of about 4%?
I think it's amazing. That's a really good rate. I don't have Ally. I actually have, oh, mine goes through Morgan. But if you can get a high yield savings account at 4%, that is amazing. Basically, they are giving you a 4% interest on money that you put into that high yield savings account. I would just make sure you're looking at all of the terms and conditions, right? Because you may not be able to pull money out of it as quickly as you might need to. There may be some penalties. It may be hard to transfer from one account to the next. There may be delays. You may not be able to do it as quickly as you might need. So just make sure you're looking and reading through the fine print. But if you can get yourself a high yield savings account at a 4% rate, I think you're doing good.
All right. And then they would like to know, well, she said, thank you for answering all of our questions. She said she's enjoying the show. Someone said they're looking at your website, the downloadables on your website. All right. And so what we want to talk about divorces because that can be a problem, with who's going to file the taxes this year. Can you speak to that so they'll know the proper way to do that?
Yeah. So, in those situations where you're separated, right? I would always say you should try to do your best to get a legal and binding agreement, right? I do see that people will put in divorce decrees. Who's going to be the one that's responsible for claiming the kids on the taxes, right? Um, it is supposed to be whoever has those children for the majority of the year. That is according to the IRS website, right? When you're filling out your tax forms, it'll say how long did this dependent live with you? And it has to be a certain number of months in order for you to be able to claim that dependent. Hence, the importance of getting an IP pin so that nobody can claim if they're not supposed to. And so that would be one thing. Obviously, if you can't do it without a written agreement, I would always say get something in writing. Obviously, if you can work something out, that'd be great. But if not, get something in writing. That's definitely always going to be your best bet. So you can really ensure that, hey, if you're supposed to be claiming the children because the children are living with you, you have primary custody, then if that person were to file erroneously, you would have documentation that says, hey, per the courts, I'm supposed to be filing the children on my return. And that would obviously, like, for instance, if both parties filed and one party beat the other party that was the actual primary custodial parent, you could use that documentation to go to the IRS to make the claims of fraudulent returns.
That process takes a while, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It absolutely does. I mean, I'm not going to tell you that it's going to be easy. I would tell somebody as soon as you know that you're ready to file. I would obviously get, if you have the rights to legal representation, I would get a lawyer, and you can always do interim things too, right? You don't have to have the full divorce decree. You could make agreements while the divorce is going on and get that in writing until such time the divorce is agreed upon.
Wow. And so it is very important that dependents that are not traditionally your child
Mhm.
should not be claimed on your taxes, right? Because what?
Yeah, so and that's a sticky situation, right? It's kind of the same deal. If they are not blood related, if you do not have agreements or custodial orders that say that you are even though you're not the mother or the father, I would always say you have to be very careful with trying to claim a dependent that you are not the primary caregiver for and have the primary responsibility for their home, their schooling, their food, their clothing. You should not be claiming that person on your return, because if you do, and you shouldn't, and the IRS finds out any income that you received from a refund, you would be subject to pay that back plus penalties.
Wow. What are some tax laws that will get you put in jail behind bars?
Oh, that's a good question. So typically it's not your traditional, like somebody misfiled something, or somebody um, you know, they accidentally put something wrong, or even, doing a fraudulent return of filing a dependent that you shouldn't have. Typically, when you're talking about people that are going to jail for tax fraud, I mean, they're doing some very big, egregious things, right? When people had the whole PPP loans,
Ah,
right? They they were definitely saying, "Hey, I have a business," and there was no business in sight. That's considered a fraudulent return that could put you behind bars. Even from like being a tax professional, I take it very seriously. I ensure that I try to get as much documentation as possible, because if the IRS audits and I cannot identify how I came up with the numbers that I came up with, then I could also be subject. Just recently, I saw that there was a tax professional that did get sentenced because they were doing hundreds of fraudulent returns in the tune of, they were, actually receiving, almost a half a million in dollars in fees. And that's just how many fraudulent returns they were doing. So, it's typically not little small things that are putting people in jail. It's really egregious. Like, anybody looking at that would be like, you deserve to go to jail. You knew better. So
oh my gosh. All right. So, what is the best way to prepare for retirement? What companies would you recommend? That's a good one.
yeah, so the best way to prepare for retirement, get a traditional retirement account or traditional IRA. I would also tell you to get a Roth IRA as well. Um, Doing a high yield savings account. If you can invest into the stock market, that is also very important. You know, One of the things that I think we kind of always have an appetite for is overspending. That is something that we all tend to do, and I'll be the first one to point my finger up. But the best way to me to prepare for retirement is to live below your means.
That's a good one.
That's the best way. Like, yes, it's nice to have, but if you can try to use the motto of, hey, I'm saving now so that I can have a big life in the future. And I'm not saying don't take your trips. I'm not saying don't buy a nice bag every now and then. I'm saying don't make that the constant lifestyle. Do those things sparingly. Pay in cash. Don't always use credit. Don't make things a lot harder for yourself. Try to make sure that you are going into high income earning jobs as well, right?
Mhm.
Going to school, getting your education, something that people can't take away from you, right? Starting your own business is also another way, right? That can help you in retirement as well. One thing that if you ever get to this point and you're able to, um, purchasing of land, purchasing of homes, right? That's something that's important. Even if you don't even intend to live on it, if you just end up selling it, if you buy
So
it now when it's cheaper,
yeah.
years from now you sell it and you've made money off of it and you can use that in retirement, right?
Now I hear all of this wisdom coming across my desk, right? How do you do that? How do you get started in buying land? How do you get started with starting an RIA, a Roth? How do you do these things?
Yeah, so most people, if you work for an organization, you can do the Roth IRA, right? Like you can do a traditional and a Roth. There are also places, Morgan Stanley, Charles Schwab. Those are organizations where you can purchase that, where you can open up those types of accounts on your own. So you don't have to go through your employer, but you can choose whichever method is best for you. The good piece about doing it without your employer is if you change employers, you don't have to worry about the transferring from one employer to the next, or if the other employer is going to be willing to accept the transfer, right? Now, when it comes to buying and purchasing land, there are a couple of different things that you can do. Obviously, saving money away, right? Maybe you and family can get together and purchase it, right? Everybody, people used to pool money together. Why aren't we doing that again? Let's pull together and let's get some money together. Another thing, if you are willing to wait a year and you're willing to go down this path,
Mhm.
most counties do tax lien sales. So if
Really?
somebody doesn't pay for their taxes on their homes or their land, then it goes up for auction to the highest bidder. So check out your local counties, right? Right in whatever your little tri-county area is that you have access to. And actually, it doesn't even have to be in your tri-county area. You can do it across the United States, right? Check those out. And if you see a property and it's like, hey, they didn't pay the taxes on it, they're going to start auctioning it off for $500. You give yourself a limit of, hey, maybe I want to go up to $5,000. I have that saved away. You might be able to purchase that land. Most counties make you wait a year for the land is actually yours because they do like to give the owner of that land a year's time to pay it. But
Mhm.
after the year, if they didn't pay it, that land might be worth 70, 80,000 and you only paid 5,000. Then you could turn
Wow.
around and sell it and flip it. So that's also another way to buy land. And maybe people you can pull together with your family. Each person puts in, $500 or whatever, and how much y'all can pull together to do a tax lien sale. So yeah, there's lots of ways out there to do that. Work if you don't have a realtor, work with a realtor. They may be able to find you some things that are a little more obscure that people don't necessarily think to purchase or buy that are pretty cheap as well. So
All right. What are some tips that you have taught your children about taxes?
it's funny, my children are very excited for their mother. And my oldest son, he is the absolute math guru. And so he's already decided he wants to be a financial planner and he wants to go in
What?
business with me.
Oh,
Like
wow.
that's
That's good.
that's what he's already decided. So, but we often have talks about, hey, mom, what does this mean? What is a credit? What is a deduction? Hey, mom, like he loves to just ask me a question. He goes and he looks things up. So we spend quite a bit of time when on the road, going back and forth from school and home and asking questions about forms or whatever he might have researched for that day. So they're very aware of, hey, I'm filing taxes so people can either get a refund or pay what they're due to the IRS. So I try to teach them at the level that they can understand. But yeah,
Yeah,
they're very interested in it.
that's awesome. There's a question on the screen that says, how did you prepare yourself to become an entrepreneur?
Um, so I did actually. So I do have my Bachelor of Science from Clemson University, and I have my master's degree from Charleston Southern University. When I went to Clemson, I got my degree in international business management, and then when I got my master's, I had a focus of entrepreneurship. So yes, I took classes that definitely taught me. But it took me years before I actually launched out into my own business, right? I went into the public and the private sector and worked, and I've been working several jobs to prepare myself to really launch into entrepreneurship. I definitely prayed first. I know that it is a heavy task. It is something that it's yours. It's your baby. You can't, it's not like working for somebody else where it falls on their lap.
Mhm.
Mistakes fall on your lap. You have to be the one to um, go to the customers and explain and help them to understand, right? You can't say, "Oh, hey, I'm going to give you to the boss." You are the
Right.
boss. So that kind of, that's one of the things that I had to pray about it to make sure, okay, God, is this now? Is this the time? Am I ready to step out on that?
Mhm.
But in order to do that, I also made sure that I had all of my business stuff in affairs in order. I got
Okay.
myself an LLC.
Mhm.
I had to obtain software. I got myself a business bank account and a business credit card, right? Because I didn't want to mix my finances between my personal and my business income. I made sure that um, I got with, I did do my own website, but I did research. I asked people, I asked individuals. I made sure that I got a business phone number. That way, I can turn on and off, right? When I'm with my family, I'm with my family. And when business is done, business is done. That type of thing. Mentorship is important. I also this year, investing in marketing has been one of my biggest things, and making sure that I'm getting my name out there. So those are all kind of the ways that I had to prepare to be an entrepreneur. And the honest truth is, it's a learning experience each and every day. It's never coasting. It is always making my good better than my best every day.
I love it. Yeah. So a lot of questions are coming in. So what would you have to say to someone wanting to hop into the tax industry? What's a great way to get started?
Yes. So one, I would tell you mentorship. Next, I would tell you take some good training. I would either do something like Intuit, TurboTax. If you're not ready to quite be on your own, working underneath somebody, don't immediately jump into doing taxes on your own. Find somebody that you want to work underneath, where they have the opportunity to really review, mentor, and guide you through
Mhm.
understanding tax law, how to research, how to find the information you need in order to file appropriately for your customers. That's where I would start. It's a heavy task to do it just out on your own. Being underneath somebody for a couple of years first will definitely give you the confidence to then go out on your own.
All right. Thank you. You've answered those questions very profoundly. We have a few more questions. Can you talk about injured spouse laws?
Yeah. So, one of the things that people typically don't realize is, if you have a married couple that traditionally files married jointly, if one of those spouses has a debt that they owe the IRS, the other spouse could file what is called either an injured or indentured form with the IRS. What that then tells the IRS is, hey, we know that spouse A owes money to the IRS, but I am asking that you exempt spouse B from having the full amount of the refund being taken by tax debt. And so that's kind of, in the most simplest terms, that's what that really represents. The IRS will look at it and say, okay, the portion of the refund that would have come to spouse B, we will not take for
Hmm.
whatever tax debt that the spouse A owes.
Oh, wow. And so there's a question. She said, I love your clear work life boundaries. Someone said, congratulations on your education. Um, I don't understand one of the questions that's on here. On an average, how much of a return do you get for your clients?
Yeah, so on average, most clients get anywhere from around like 3,500. I've seen some clients get up to like 12,000 before, but pre COVID, post COVID, and now are kind of two different things. While COVID was going on, there were a lot of tax exemptions, tax deductions that we qualified for. And those things actually ended this year. So people are seeing some smaller refunds than what they may have seen in the past because we no longer have those same credits and deductions. And the limits changed on those. But in the past, I saw some pretty big refunds. Going into this year, the refunds are kind of normalizing to what they used to be in the past.
Wow. Who qualifies as head of household?
Typically, in order to qualify as head of household, you have to be considered the person responsible for all of the household expenses and have a dependent. That is typically how you qualify as head of household. Whenever I have a customer that wants to obtain that designation, then I do ask for some qualifying information. One might be a lease that shows that that person is, the owner of that lease, a mortgage statement, a utility bill, something that says, hey, this is the person that is on this bill as the responsible party. Um, and that's typically how you show like designations that you are the head of household.
All right. And amended taxes. We want to
Mhm.
talk about that. Who qualifies for a tax return to be amended?
Yeah, so anybody can qualify to have their tax return amended. What it typically means, if you need to amend your tax return, it's typically because you may have left something off of your tax return that you need to add to it. So sometimes an organization doesn't provide you with your 1099 or your W 2 before you filed your return. Well, you're still obligated to file that. So if you already put it in, then you would have to amend your return and add in that additional income or interest statement or whatever it is that you did not originally file. So that's kind of why you would amend a return.
Good. Surviving spouse election. What is that?
Yeah. So a surviving spouse election is when a married couple that typically files jointly, one of the spouses has passed away, the the spouse that is still living can file as surviving spouse.
If a couple is married, do they have to file jointly?
You do not have to file jointly if you are married. You could file separate. Typically, people like to file separate if they do not mix their finances. So you may be married, but you say, "Hey, no, my money is my money, your money is your money. We split the household expenses, evenly, kind of thing. We don't want to share with each other." Or the other reason might be they might have separated. So they're filing separate now. They're still married according to law, right? But they have separated. So they may also file that way.
What is one of the worst things you have seen while people file their taxes trying to claim credits and deductions?
Fuel credits. A lot of people have been misled that they can claim gas that they've used for their personal use on their returns. The fuel credits is really for like the trucking industry, right? They have to pay a lot of money to fill those trucks. That's what that's for. But that became a pretty common scam over the years, is to put those fuel credits on, and then it gets big returns. So that's probably I have never filed like that, but I definitely have been asked to do that, and it's a
Wow.
hard no
And
for me.
yeah, that's a no, no. Can you explain tax brackets and why the percentage rises the higher the tax bracket a person goes into?
Yeah, so tax brackets are the way that the government has set up our tax system. So, depending on how much money you make, there is a certain percentage of taxes that you have to pay. And now we know those taxes do everything from upkeep our roads, take care of our military, our civilian workforce, protecting the nation, our government, like it covers those things. The way that it is set up is, the more money you make, the percentage increases. Like that is just the gist of it. And then what the IRS has on the back end is they offer credits and deductions to help reduce some of the tax liability.
All right. And it is prayer time. We have other questions, but we're going to end the show. So we're going to ask our audience to send in your prayer requests right now while I tell you the phone number that you can call to reach Veronica Truesdale, which is a professional tax preparer. That phone number is 843-604, and it is on the screen, 1097. Once again, you can reach Veronica by calling 843-604-1097. Please send your request for prayer in at this time. All right. They are asking for prayer for their family, for finances, for healing. All right, put them in. If you want a prayer request, now is the time to put that prayer request in. Pray for those that do not have enough finances to get their taxes done correctly, those that are suffering, those that want to open a business and they don't have the proper means to do so. All right. Veronica, she is a first lady of a church, and she's going to lead us into prayer at this time.
Before I do that, Sandra, I just wanted to tell you I just appreciate you so much. Um, you are just amazing, and this is a great forum. So I just wanted to let you know that before we finished out. But yes, thank you so much. You're
Oh,
very lovely, and I'm really enjoying working with you on every single time. So
oh, thank you
yeah,
so much. Thank you
you're
for, and I
welcome.
must say, I really appreciate you. I met you like 2 years ago, and unless you fall off the face of the earth, we will be working together forever, right?
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
and my children love you as well. So thank you for being present. And I found you online. I was praying, um, and I asked God to lead me to someone because I need a easy transition. You know, when you do your Texas, you don't want to be frustrated. You don't
Yeah.
want to be confused. You don't want to be, getting upset and all that stuff. You
Mhm.
want an easy transition to receive what's due you. And so
Mhm.
I found that in you. And so I thank you so much for being available, allowing God to use you to put things on the social media so we can find you, and
Yes.
now I'm here to let people know that you're trustworthy. And so a word of mouth is everything. And
Yes, ma'am.
so I highly recommend Miss Truesdale, and she will take good care of you. Don't forget to mention Sandra's Authors Forum and let her know, because she will treat you with the utmost respect, right?
Yeah.
And so, yes. And so Victoria said, come back again. And
Yeah.
yeah, so thank you. I had to say that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just go. I'll go down in prayer with you now.
Thank you.
Father, in the name of Jesus, Lord, I just want to thank you for what we were able to do on tonight, God. I thank you for being able to reach in to each and every person through this channel, God. I thank you for Dr. Sandra. I thank you for what she's doing. I thank you for how she is blessing the lives of those around her, God. I thank you, God, for how you are using her in her ministry. I thank you for her family. I thank you for everybody, God, that has been able to be touched, God. I ask you, God, for the increase in each and every one of their lives. God, I ask you, God, if they need something, God, right now, we call down heaven. Open up your doors, pass them out a blessing, God. Touch their hearts, touch their minds. Let them wake up, God, in the morning with a new freshness of your life, of your spirit, God. We thank you. We honor you. We worship you. We adore you, God. I want you to know I thank you and I appreciate every opportunity that you have laid before my feet in order to honor you in all things that I do in my life. And I'm asking all of these in your precious name. Amen.
And amen. 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 Thank you for that prayer. That was well needed. I just feel like somebody was receptive and they needed it. And so people are
Amen.
watching all over the place, even out of the
Amen.
country, people that will never tap in and say hello. They will hear your voice and that prayer will go out to them. And so I appreciate that. Remember, if you need someone to talk to about your taxes, I highly recommend Miss Truesdale, and she will. You know what? My daughter had a teacher named Miss Truesdale. I'm
Oh,
surprised she didn't say it on here.
oh, wow. I
Yeah.
don't meet a lot of people with the last name Truesdale.
Yes, she had a teacher named Miss Truesdale, and that was her favorite teacher. So,
Oh,
yeah. But the phone number once again is 843-604-1097. Don't forget to mention Sandra's Authors Forum as you call and set up your appointment to meet with Miss Truesdale. All right. And so thank you so much once again. And you have a safe, fantastic week. Until next time. What we're going to do is, I'm trying to find my yes. The scripture that we're going to leave with is, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. But let patience have her perfect work, entire, wanting nothing. Patience have a perfect work in you, entiring, wanting nothing. All right. And so we want you to have a good night. They say, oh, yes,
thank
yes.
you.
Yes. All right. Um, the links are on the screen, and we want you all to leave a donation, if you will. This is a paid program, and so I do pay to be on Awesome God Radio, which is a number one um, award-winning radio station. And so we want you to send in a donation, and my assistant will put it on the screen, and you can also see it here um, by my name. It is, all right, give me 1 second. It is $Dr. SEJACKSON. And you can send it there. All right. If you have PayPal, you can also send it to Journey into Purpose 22 at gmail.com. Thank you so much, and you have a great night.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, and good night. May God bless you all.